Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. This is going to be a comparison video between the CZ75B and the CZ75 SP-01. These are both models with manual safeties. These each have a model that has a decocker instead of the manual safety, but these are both models with manual safeties. Let's go over the specs of each one individually. Let's start off with the CZ75B first. It has a 4.6-inch cold hammer forged barrel. It weighs 32 ounces unloaded with no magazine. It weighs 35 ounces as shown with the 16-round magazine inserted. It has a double single action trigger. It comes with plastic grips. It has 3-dot white sights, and it has a manual safety. It also has a firing pin block safety. The CZ75 SP-01 also has a 4.6-inch cold hammer forged barrel. It weighs 37 ounces unloaded with no magazine. It weighs 41 ounces with the empty 19-round magazine as shown. It also has a double single action trigger. This has rubber grips. The manual safety is ambidextrous. It has an enhanced slide lever stop. It has a fiber optic front sight. It has an accessory rail. Both are 8.1 inches long. The CZ75B is 5.4 inches tall. This one is 5.8 inches tall. The CZ75B is 1.4 inches wide, and this one, the CZ75 SP-01, is 1.46. So the CZ75 SP-01 is bigger and heavier and has a greater capacity and more accessory options than the regular CZ75B. Now let's look at each in more finer detail. The CZ75B is a great pistol. It's highly accurate right out of the box. The single action trigger is very nice. You will never actually use this in double action because of the manual safety, unless you somehow decock it while it's hot, which is kind of a risky proposition to do. I absolutely love the black polycoat finish that CZ does. This slide on here is the weak point, but it's also how you achieve the low bore axis. Now, this one only has serrations on the rear, and they're flat and not curved at all. The SP-01 model, there's front and rear slide serrations, and the rear ones are kind of curved to fit to your fingers, and there's also front serrations that are flat like this. So this is one of the weak points, is it's kind of hard to rack the slide, but when you do get a good purchase on it, the slide does move pretty easy. So this is something that's a big difference between the two models that I noticed, is the controls here are really smooth right out of the box. The other ones are super stiff. So like the safety control and the slide on this are super easy to manipulate. So it's empty, so that the slide moves really easy and freely. The safety, same thing, and you can hear an audible click. Now, the trigger on both of them is identical, both double single action, and I can't really have a noticeable difference in the pull between the two. So everything else, there is a difference, but the trigger is one thing that I think is universal, and the hammer here, but everything else, there's a slight difference too. Now this is the base model, so this one costs less also. So the MSRP on this bad boy is $800, where on the SP-01 it's $950. But you get less features. This is very basic. It doesn't have an accessory rail or even the capability to have an accessory rail. But this is very simple. It takes down similar to a 1911. You line up these two little notches here and then knock out the slide lever stop. You can use a magazine. These metal magazines are really nice. They're 16-round capacity. They're expensive if you buy the CZ brand, but you can also get Mekgar ones also. But these are really nice. And you see the way the base plate is, that it fits flush. Now the handle on these, or the grip length, is excellent. I have small hands, but you see I have extra space. So if you have large hands, you'll be able to fill the full length of the grip, no problem. I really like the grip as it comes. You can replace these scales or grips, however you want to call them, with G10. There are some that are rubber. These are plastic. I eventually will replace them, but right out of the box, the grip is extremely comfortable. The beaver tail is shallow and fat, whereas on the SP-01, it's a little bit longer and thinner. I'll show you. The downside to this is the slide is so thin that it's really hard to quickly use the controls. So I actually prefer to use the slide lever stop to reload on the next magazine when it's empty and locked to the rear position. But having to rack one when it's inserted originally, you don't really have a whole lot to grab onto, so it is kind of a pain. But other than that, that's like the one downside, is this design. It has its great benefit with the low bore axis and the weight of this. It's 2 pounds unloaded. So with the magazine here, it's 35 ounces, and fully loaded, it's probably 40 ounces or more depending on your load. So I really like this, and for the price, it's hard to beat. It's extremely accurate, and when you look at it and take it apart, it's simple. The little pieces in here resemble 1911 with the spring and the plastic piece inside the spring. And then the spring fits in all the way down here, but there's no, this doesn't move over and come out like in a 1911. So it's easier to take down than a 1911, to be honest, because all you do is slide these two together and knock the slide lever stop off, and then it comes off, and it's super easy to take apart. So easy to maintain, easy to clean, and it works like a charm. They have this rating that they call the mean rounds between failure, and it's some obscene number. I've had 0 malfunctions whatsoever, and I've used just factory ammo. I've used 115 and 124 grain in this. No problems with either. Not a single malfunctions, no problems with extraction or anything. Loaded everything, ate everything. Extremely accurate right out of the box. So now let's go over the CZ75 SP-01, which is its more tactical big brother. The CZ75 SP-01 is essentially the big brother to the CZ75. This is an extremely nice pistol right out of the box. The first thing when you pick it up that you notice is the weight. This is quite a bit heavier than the regular CZ75. Unloaded, it weighs 37 ounces unloaded with the empty magazine, which is 19 rounds as shown, which is a really nice magazine, extremely nice. Weighs 41 ounces. So fully loaded, it's 3 pounds or more, depending on your load. And you can also use the CZ75 16-round magazines in this. They will work. I use them also in this flawlessly. I've used these ones also in the regular CZ75B, and they will work also. And they look rad. Look at this. This thing is quite the unit. For the price, I think that's hard to beat. Now, these are more expensive than some of the polymer guns, but if you look online, you can get these for a good price if you search. I got this for under $700. The MSRP on this is $949. So this is we're talking 1911 money for this bad boy, but it has good features. So this has a lot more features than the regular CZ75B, and now I'm going to go over those. So let's start with the obvious, the front and rear slide serrations. Now these ones on the rear are curved, whereas on the other one they're flat. Now these here are flat, so these are really more for like press checks. But these ones here are more curved to fit your fingers. It's really nice. Now the slide on this one is way more stiff, and so are the controls compared to the CZ75B. Now as you see, the lower frame here is a little bit more girthy, and it has the accessory rail. So here's some of the extra weight. But it's 5 ounces heavier, so it's also taller this way, and it's thicker too, by the numbers. You definitely notice the weight, but there is absolutely no recoil. you can't shoot a load of 9mm probably hot enough to have any forcible recoil with this thing. The front sight is fiber optic, when the rear sights is just the white dots, which more like smoke or dirt white. They're not very white, they're extremely dim. So that's one of the negatives, is you might as well just have a blacked out rear, because these white dot sights are kind of, not really useful. That's one of the negatives about the CZ75B, is I'm definitely getting night sights for that. But this has this fiber optic front sight, and this jumps out at you. The camera may not pick it up so well, but when you're looking down range, and I used each of these at 40 yards, or excuse me, 40 feet, and this you can pick up way easier. So when you're looking for that front sight picture, this one is so much better. It obviously has a greater capability because of the accessory rail, but the controls are also enhanced. So the safety is on both sides. So it has ambi safety. Now the slide lever stop is bigger, and it has more of like a shelf to it. So you see these are bigger, whereas on the other one, it's kind of gradual. So this is an enhanced, but it's also a bigger profile, I would say. So the controls are also a little bit stiffer. Now, when I first used this on the last round, and I put in a new magazine, and I tried to pull the slide back, it didn't really want to work, so I had to hit it forward. And still, it isn't yet broken in, so I've used the slide lever stop. Now, what I did is I extracted the round that it did load and then redid it just to see, and it's slowly working its way in, but you can definitely tell that this is way more stiffer. This could be that the spring in here is a different weight too. Also, there is a different design to the recoil system, slightly, so the plastic piece that goes inside the spring is much longer and skinnier. You can see it here. So you see that plastic piece? It's really long. And here it's just a little nub like it is in a GI 1911. So it's a little bit different with the design, but essentially it's like the big brother. So the controls are enhanced. The grips here are actually rubber, so they're not plastic, and they have this little hump to them. So this is really great in the hand. I actually let somebody next to me feel this and check it out, because he was like, you know, what, you come here often, yada, 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 because he was trying to teach his daughter-in-law shooting, whatever, and I have, you know, these different looking guns, so people kind of are intrigued when they see these hammer fired guns, so I was letting him check it out. It also has an enhanced magazine release where it's just a little button on the CZ75B, a little round button. Here you can see how much bigger it is. It also has texturing here on the grips, both on the front and the rear, whereas it's smooth on the CZ75B. So it does have a little bit more features. The beaver tail is also longer and thinner, so it does have a little bit of a different angle, I noticed, and it also is a little bit thinner. So the other one's a little shorter and fatter and thicker, and it kind of has a little bit of a different angle. It kind of just stops like here, and here it kind of swoops back up. So there are some noticeable differences between the two, but they both shoot lights out. But you definitely notice the weight in this one. You definitely feel that extra 5 ounces in weight. But all in all, for the extra money that this one's cost, the capability is greater and you get more right out of the box. So the other one is a little bit more basic, and this one has more enhanced features, I would say. Here's the targets from my range trip that I used, the CZ75B and the CZ75 SP-01. Same distance, same ammo, same day. I started off with the SP-01 first because it's bigger and heavier and it's more expensive, and I wanted to be warmed up for the less feature-rich CZ75B because I automatically already know that the sighting system for this one is superior, and this one has a harder time picking up the sights at further distances. So you can see each one has the same amount of rounds. Each has 75 rounds on each target using Fiocchi 115 grain brand new factory brass ammo. The results are pretty similar. I think for me, I feel more comfortable with the SP-01 because the extra weight and the front sight, you're able to get the follow-up shots easier. This one, the sights, it's harder to acquire the target and make adjustments because of the sight. Also, the height of the sight and the length of it is a little different on each. Like the fiber optic is long, so the CZ75B just has it's like a little nub. So at 40 feet, the sighting system is superior for the CZ75 SP-01. This one, it's kind of hard to pick up those sights. They say 3-dot white sights, but they're not very white. So it would be helpful if they were a little bit more bright white or a different color. I'm going to get night sights for them. But for now, this is factory CZ75B and CZ75 SP-01. Same distance, same ammo, same amount of rounds. You can see similar results, but if you ask me, this one is a little bit better. Here I have some groupings that are right on top of each other, but they're missing the intended target. Here, I didn't even touch it, but I did stack 5 or 6 all together. So it is accurate, but I wasn't able to make the adjustment, and I think it's due to the sights because I used this one second. Also, I was getting kind of impatient because the sights for the SP-01 with that fiber optic front sight are so much easier to pick up than on this one, and I was trying to go slow and do the best comparison possible because what's universal in these is the double single action trigger, and they're both manual safety. Same barrel length, there's just minor differences in the features and the weight. So this is a pretty good comparison. They're both factory guns from the same manufacturer. Either one, I don't think you can go wrong, but if I had a preference, I definitely like the SP-01. You can get either model with the manual safety or the decocker. I prefer the manual safety over the decocker. I don't ever use the double action trigger pull, but if that's your thing, that's available too. But only using it in single action, it's a great single action trigger pull. You got to get used to it a little bit because it's not like your polymer striker fire pistols. This travel of the trigger on a double single action trigger is way greater. So when you fire it in single action, the reset is a lot shorter than in double action. So depending on what model you get, that might affect your choice too. But I'm only going to use it in single action, and I have to say that it is a great out-of-the-box pistol. And I would say that the SP-01 here, if you're looking for like a poor man's competition 9mm pistol, I would say that's it. The only thing that it needs is to be red dot available. If you somehow had somebody, I've seen people that can get these customized, get a red dot on it. This is an awesome piece, especially for the price. Can't be beat. So check them out, the CZ75 series of pistols.